Welcome to 60 Minutes with a Woman, the podcast where we sit down with remarkable women. In each episode, we dive into their journey, the challenges, the triumph, and the lessons that shape them. Get ready for raw conversations, inspiring stories, and actionable insights to fuel your own success. Tune in because every woman's story deserves to be heard. Welcome, Heather. Welcome to 60 Minutes with a Woman. It is a true pleasure to have you here today.
I'm so honored to be with you, Sara. Thank you.
Wonderful. Let me introduce you and allow people to get to know you a little more. Heather, you are the first in your family to break the cycle of financial survival. You are a high school dropout who failed math, yet you became a self-made millionaire. Not through business or luck, but by mastering movement of money. You did not follow the rules and you created new ones. You now teach entrepreneurs and high earners how to stop chasing income and start building financial independence with strategy and with structure. Your mission is simple. You help the first in their family to become the last to ever struggle with money. And you have a program that is called I Am Generation One because you are Generation One. And now you help others claim that identity too. Welcome, Heather. Welcome.
Thank you. That was a fantastic introduction, and it just reaches to the heart of everything that I stand for in my mission here. Yes, thank you.
That is also why I was very happy to have you here. Financial education is the core value of any successful career or life in general. People need to get their feet wet with the subject. And let's dive into who is Heather Russo. Tell us more about where you grew up, what was your upbringing like, and your early influences.
Thank you. So I'm kind of that typical story, grew up with not a lot, and that created so much scarcity that I actually started studying money when I was a teenager.
Really?
My excitement for turning 18 was so I could open an IRA, which I think is not typical for an 18-year-old. But I had been studying money and finance probably since I was 16. But not from the place of not from the place of abundance, though, right? As such, fear is like, I knew how we lived. I knew all the struggles and strife. And it's like, I just don't want to have that for my future or my family. And so I was really just through my life experiences of never having enough, not getting to have what now I look at were actually simple things, like a candy bar or being able to go to the movies, things that like would be normal. And that was like out of reach for us. And so that's really the journey that I went through, and watching my parents fight and divorce.
Yes.
Money is the number one reason of divorce. So I'm definitely on a soapbox about that, that this paper can break up families. I saw it in my own upbringing, and I just wanted a different future for myself.
It is actually true. Money, and I was talking about it, was intimacy coach. She is focused more on helping couples who work together reconnect with each other. And this is the first thing she brought up, is that money is one of the main reasons why people get separated. Yes. So it's an issue that everybody can relate to. And on your website, during our previous conversation also, you described how you grew up in a world where money controlled everything. And there is a sentence that that really touched me a lot while scrolling on your website. You said you remember from that time a certain phrase being, "We don't have money for that." And I know a lot of people, once again, can relate to this childhood. And I want to thank you once again for opening up on that subject. And can you tell me more? What were your dreams? Was that concept in mind as a child? Was, for example, college even a thought in your mind? Or were you thinking, oh, we might not have money for that? At what point did you understand, how did you picture your future knowing that you had financial restrictions?
So I would say the effect of that is actually I didn't dream of a future.
Oh,
So it was like survival. Like all I thought about for my future was survival, not something as expansive as college even entered my mind. It was work really hard, try to survive, make sure there's always food, and that we can stay sheltered. Like I can stay sheltered. That was like that would be a dream come true for the stability. So I guess really the only future I could see was stability. And I only saw it through working really hard and scrimping and saving and sacrifice.
so you had in mind that you needed to work early in life?
Yeah, I started working when I was 12, babysitting. And then as soon as I could get a job, I think it was like 14 and a half or something. At that time, you could get a little visa to work before you were 18. And so I got that.
Yes.
Yeah. So I just always had worked to provide for myself. So that responsibility fell to me earlier in life than most people. And I took it really seriously because it was serious. It was food and shelter. Like if I didn't help provide parts of that, then it wasn't secure.
And at 18 years old, you decided to open your IRA and you thought this was the right way to go. Can you tell us more about, first of all, how you got, just how did you learn about IRA altogether? Because indeed, young people normally don't start diving into this kind of topic before a certain age. And also, what did you expect from it?
I thought that was the path, like that was going to solve all the problems. Like following the people of the day, Susie Orman, Dave Ramsey, that's kind of who I grew up with. And I would just listen to anything on money, or if there was a conference in my area, even when I was a teenager, like I would go. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what would be right or wrong. But the common uh, theme, I would say, you kept hearing was put into the stock market, start investing early, pay off your debt, stay debt free, those kind of things. And so I really followed them. So the Dave Ramsey baby steps, having emergency funds and things like that, being prepared for anything that could happen in life. And so that's just generally the path that I stuck with through most of my 20s. And so I really followed them like religiously. Every talk show, anything that they were on, any article I could read, I used to subscribe to Money Magazine. And all of that is about the stock market. Like everything is always about the stock market. Your 401k, your IRA, it's like that's the way to freedom. That's what everybody said, the way to freedom. Stay out of debt and put money in the market and you'll be fine.
And when did you realize that the IRA and what you thought was the way to go wasn't serving you?
After I went through a few crashes, like 1999 and 2000, it's like half of my money was wiped out. And not that I even had a lot, but that was better than my family had ever had. So to me, it felt,
Yes.
like that was amazing that I even had any money in the stock market because that had never even been a topic of conversation or investing in my whole entire life, in my family of origin. And so all of a sudden half of it was gone. And it was like, wait, no, nobody talks about this part. Everybody just says, put the money there and you're going to be great and you'll be set for life. And I was not set for life. I was set back in life because I was at the risk of the market. And not to say there's not a space for that in your financial plan, but it cannot be your only plan.
Were you aware about the risks? Or did you feel that maybe you educated yourself in such a way that you felt comfortable, and you expected it to just maintain its value or just work all together, yes, and increase value?
Yes, probably a little bit of both. My sunshine glasses of like, this is it, I found the Holy Grail. But also the other side is that that's all that's talked about. That's the only place you put money, like for what I was reading and researching. And then later on, I learned more about real estate. But literally, those are the two things that people talk about, of ways of putting your money or investing and growing wealth. And so
Yes.
I probably didn't pay enough attention. So I take that personal responsibility. And secondly, it's just preached about like, that's what you do. Money Magazine says it, Forbes says it, Susie Orman was saying it, Dave Ramsey says it. And so that they are all successful, but they're more successful based on their business. They're in the business of money. So their wealth came from their business, not where they tell you to put their money, which is a huge light bulb moment for me later in life. It's like, oh, they're wealthy not because of where they put their money necessarily. I'm not saying that they haven't attained wealth in that now as they, became popular and made a lot of money in their businesses. But their businesses are what made them wealthy first.
You know what's funny is that recently I discovered, I mean, everybody knows about it, but I really had a confirmation about how certain popular figures were promoting certain things because it brought them a lot of attention. So if IRA is now a subject that is very trendy, it doesn't mean that it doesn't work, but it will push for it because what they're looking to do is leverage a subject against, earning of more listeners or more followers altogether. So they will provide to the people what people want.
Right.
And unfortunately, when you have a lot of once again, celebrities or just main characters on TVs and shows and people that have a lot of influences talking about the same thing, it prevents people from looking somewhere else because now they're thinking, oh, they made their money like that. Just back to what you were saying.
Yes.
They said it, so they made it happen for themselves. It must be true. Whereas the dynamic coming from the actual influencer is not the same that the one that is coming from the listener. So educating yourself beyond what's available on TV, in the newspaper or even online is crucial.
It is. And it's really a system by design. Our financial system is by design. And the design is not for us to grow and prosper easily. It's designed for us to think we actually have to work for 40 years to ever be free. It's designed for us to scrimp and save and, follow our money in the ways that culture says we should.
Yes.
And unfortunately, our culture wants easy. Everybody out there, you're wanting easy. Easy isn't what is going to produce the life that you want. It is not what's going to give you financial security. Turning your power over to someone else, staying uneducated and ignorant about how your money is working, where your money actually is, the fees around that, what inflation is robbing from you, what taxes rob from you, and that there are solutions for all of that is a choice that you're choosing to make because the information is out there. The rise in social media, there are other people like me out there having these conversations that you can find. And I know you've seen them, but it requires us to become a different person. It requires us to rise above our fears, have courage, be willing to put in the time and effort to fully understand what we're doing with our money, how our money is working for us or against us. And unfortunately, as a culture and then society has trained us also, right? It's not just our personal choices. There is that responsibility too. But society trains us, well, it's easy. Just put it in your 401k, just hand it over to your financial advisor and planner. When in actuality, 85% of financial planners and advisors' plans never work. But we all still keep doing it because partially that's what our parents did because that's all that they knew. And we don't want to take on the responsibility of really understanding and working with our money, which is what it boils down to.
Heather, I can hear the passion behind the speech.
I just want to shake everyone and say, you can do it. I know you can, and you can create this amazing future that is so much more stable and less hustle and grind than you imagine. And everybody deserves that relief and that freedom.
I can really hear that this is a mission for you. It's not only a topic that you're good at or something that changed your life altogether. It is about educating people. There is a devotion behind the work you do. And it's just omnipresent in our lives. There is no way around it. And we are being very much victimized, as you mentioned, by society altogether. Why is it that we're not learning more about financial strategies and understanding budgeting and even, handling debts altogether in high school or in college? There's just no place for these type of programs in the academic way we are being taught. And indeed, this is a little bit of indoctrination into staying where we are, right? Stuck where we are. So Thank you for that. And I wanted to ask you also, just to give a perspective to where you come from to the listeners. You said you started working. I wanted to ask you if you, in what field were you working before, and also if you always had this entrepreneurial mindset.
I didn't, from that scarcity and fear based point, right, of security. And so honestly, I was in HR, and then I started out in interning in high school and all kinds of different things and temporary jobs, and then an office job. I was, an admin assistant, and then I was an executive assistant, and then I moved into HR with the company. So I was doing all the traditional things that you should do. And honestly, I was pushed a lot from my family to join the state. I come from, I originally born and raised in California, and almost everyone in my family worked for the state or federal government. Like my dad worked out at the Air Force Base. So it was like, state or federal, like that's what you do because that's how you secure your future. And I just, for whatever reason, was really rebellious against that. I just felt, I don't know what I felt. Honestly, I can't identify what it was, but it was like, no way. Even though I was always searching for security because that's why I was doing the traditional jobs. And then I was actually leaving a very financially abusive marriage, and I walked away with nothing. And it's that courage that I walked away with nothing that I realized none of that was the life I wanted to live. Like the jobs that I was doing, like I was doing it all out of scarcity, right? And I just didn't want to be in that emotional space anymore of always being so scared and so afraid. And I had a passion at that time for skincare, believe it or not, because I had grown up with severe acne. And so that was something that had really shaped who I was and my confidence and all kinds of things that I was never even wear my hair in a ponytail because then you could see my face. Like it affected so many things
Oh, wow.
in my personal life. And I always looked down. I wouldn't look people in the eye. And so I was very passionate about learning how I can make that different for other people. Not in fixing my own skin, then I could help others. And it was about them to have courage and confidence and self-esteem. And so after leaving that marriage, I just went all in and I went to school for that. And I, right out of school, started my own business. Was not easy. I worked 3 jobs and I had 2 kids and I was a single mom. So I took a hard road, but it was the most fulfilling road. So honestly, my scariest time of walking away with nothing was my bravest time to like, if I'm burning it all down, I'm burning it all down. And I'm just like, life is so short. And I saw what money did, like how it destroyed you as a person. Like I saw that in my husband. Like he didn't live with joy and I hadn't been living with joy. And so and I was scared. And then he was more fearful and scarcity than I was. Like his family would joke, he still had the first $10 he made mowing a lawn. Like it's still in his bank account, right? And I was like, well, that sounds a lot like me. And then I'm looking at how he treated people and things and experiences. And it was a good mirror. Like I'm so grateful that he came into my life because it was a mirror of the path that I was already on.
Yes.
And without even realizing like I'm that person, he's just farther ahead in that scarcity and mentality. And I don't want to treat people and things and experiences and like that at all. Like, and it really shook me up and it woke me up and I just went for all of it. And it wasn't like, oh, and then everything was roses. It was hard and I failed. And then I got back up again and I tried again and I had nothing. And, it was just this rotating way of life, but I wouldn't change any of it. Like it was the first time, as terrifying as it was, to let go of the fear around money and the security was exactly what I needed to do to rise above it.
Oh, I love it. I love the message. I love your bravery as well. You're very brave. And it sounds like you had this self trust that you could do anything that you put your mind into. And it says a lot about your personality altogether. And now that we have a better understanding of your situation, which was no easy situation, and the reason why I like to give a frame of who people are before to become who they've become is really to show that anybody can do it.
Yes. That's why I admit my failings, which is not easy, right? It's really hard to be a money coach and say, I failed math, because of the reflection of what people will think and about that, or that I didn't graduate high school. Like I create my own stigmas and I realize that I need to set myself free because there's no shame in that. That's actually a strength because I can show people that you don't have to do that. Like if you're terrible at math, you can still ultimately possibly be a millionaire if you do all the things and that you need to in your life and with your money. Everybody can attain that. It seems so unattainable, but it's actually not. It is unattainable in our current financial system as it's taught. But if you're willing to live differently and view things differently and show up differently, it's actually attainable.
Math can easily become the boogeyman if you let it.
Yes.
And it can easily become your best partner if you put your money into it once again.
Yes, exactly.
Which you did, right?
Right. I mean, I'm still not great at math, but thank goodness for technology, right? So don't let not being good at math. That's why we have software. That's why we have Excel. This is why we have tracking of, software. So take the fear, any fears that you have or that I might not understand it. There's a lot of concepts at first. My brain, it didn't even click, but it's like, okay, that makes no sense to me. But I'm just going to read it again, or I'm going to try it again. And just again, and that's where I think the identity and the mindset really come first. It's not the tools. It's not the system and structures that are first. We like to go to that. We think if I just get a high rate of return, or I win the lottery, or I get that really high paying position, it's going to change everything. Like I thought the IRA would be for me, right? It's going to change everything. I just invest my money. I'm going to be rich. And that's never it, because it's who you have to be and who you show up through the journey and what you're willing to do and the courage you're willing to embody and the reality of who you are, that you really can do anything. If you just don't quit, you can get there. And even if you fall short, like if my goal is $1 million and I get to $900,000, I still created something amazing that, isn't being done by the people around me, most likely, like in my life, my family, right, of origin, most likely.
But you just said it. You just shared a powerful message with us. It's all about mindset. So the very fact that you brought this up is very ironic in a certain sense, because I used to read these books and think, how can mindset bring you more money? This is just a way to bring them more money. All these book writers and trying to compel people to change their lives. But now listening to your story, I can see where this advice is coming from. It's really about, if you're not willing to learn, if you're not willing to progress on an instructor, find a good way of understanding how you can improve your finances, which comes directly from you, then indeed you're going to go the traditional route. And if you fail, you're going to feel like, it's too risky, or I'm not willing to take the risk again in the future, and vice versa. And this is going to be a setback, like you mentioned before. So, yeah, super cool that you actually, but thank you for that.
Yeah, I preach this too. Wealth starts here. Wealth starts in your mind. It is there. If you can't envision it or believe it's possible for you, you won't take the moves. I mean,
Yep.
just like health, right? Health and exercise, all the information is out there. We understand, take in less calories than you burn, and, don't eat junk food, make sure it's whole food. So it's not like the knowledge isn't out there to be healthy, yet we have this massive obesity rate. Same with financial duress. It's not that information isn't out there. I mean, the most basic level is spend less than you make. It's a very simple, universal tool, but most of us are not doing that. If we carry a credit card balance at the end of the month, we're not adhering to the most simplest things. And so it's not like the information, right? It's been proven again and again. It's not about the tools and information. It's about who we are, what we believe for ourselves, and what we're willing to do to get the future for ourselves. But even beyond that, and when you talk about motherhood, what are we teaching our children? Like we talk to them about going to work and getting a job, and we talk to them about education for college. What is college for? College is for getting a good paying job so you can be financially stable. But so you're giving them this one piece, and we're missing the most important piece, which is the foundation of stability, is our money, our foundations of money.
It's a generational curse. I agree on that. We want our children to be financially secure and safe. So we give them what we know, and they grow thinking this is what they need, all they need to survive in life. And then they teach it to their own children, unless somebody breaks that curse and decide to go out of the way and once again put his mind or her mind into it and learn about financial education and and also just
Yes.
continue to learn, allow themselves to learn, because this evolves and changes over time. Like you said, things are not easy, but as long as you understand that this has a greater purpose for you, people around you, and even your children, you're really setting yourself and everybody surrounding you for success. So I love it. And I want to ask you, when you decided to make that shift and become an entrepreneur, what are the small steps you took to grow financially that made a difference in your life?
So the biggest ones are I stopped following the money patterns of the rich and I started following the money patterns of the wealthy. I like realized this is not working. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's like I'm doing all these things for the last 20 years and I'm not wealthy. I'm financially stable, but I'm not like having this big life that I thought I would be traveling or, I wasn't in debt. And if something went, my air conditioner broke, I could pay for it. I'm like, there's got to be more to this life than that. And I'm still on a pathway to like 40 years of, waiting 40 years to enjoy any kind of freedom. And I realized that's not what the wealthy are doing. But something clicked, and I don't know where it happened or where it was. And on my entrepreneurial journey, I would say, so I started out as an esthetician, and I had a wellness center. Eventually, I evolved into that, and realizing for me that getting ahead meant charging more, like charging a livable wage. Instead of coming into business and being like, I'm going to sell the cheapest thing to attract people, energy is going to attract those people. So those people are never going to help you rise to a different income level, if that makes any
Yes,
sense.
it does make sense.
So I ran my business like for the first year being like the cheapest. Like I used Groupon. It was new at that, like in the way back when Groupon was new. And, you didn't make any money. You actually lost money normally on that. But I looked at it as a cost of marketing and just being very real with your numbers. A lot of business people don't really understand their numbers and what you need to make to survive. And there's a lot of fear and scarcity, I think, in general, when people are starting out because they discount themselves.
Yes.
Because I'm new. Because you're new doesn't mean you're not quality. It doesn't mean you don't know what you're doing. It doesn't mean you don't have something superior to offer. But we tend to undercut who we are, and that reflects in our prices and our like our self-esteem, our self-worth. Like there's so many emotional things that come into that as well. And so for the longest time, I didn't even earn enough to support my business, hence why I worked a few other jobs to do that. But also understanding if I'm going out on my own and I have to market myself, like being willing to work the few other jobs, because I see too many people who start a business and they go all in, but they have no backup plan. They know their cash flow if they don't earn enough that month. So then they go into debt and they create this financial cycle by not being realistic. Not only are you most likely going to have to like work and hustle and grind in your business, but you're going to have another way that income is fully supported somewhere while you're growing. And some people just don't understand those pieces. And so they dig themselves into such big holes.
It's all about having a business plan, even in life.
Yes. For your business and your financial plan. Like there needs to be two plans. Most of the time we focus on the business plan and don't realize we need a financial plan.
And have a plan B.
Always.
Have a plan B. I see many people throwing themselves into beautiful dreams of theirs, which I fully support, because let's do it, right? Let's achieve happiness. However, bumps on the road are constant. It's just a guarantee with taxes and death.
Yeah, it's all not going to work out all the time. It's 100% that is not going to always go smoothly and everything's going to work perfectly.
Exactly. So if you train your mind to react in a way that serves you during those times, because you have a business plan, you had a business plan, it will be easier to handle the bumps on the road emotionally and literally,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And this is true for everything you decide to take, any project you decide to take on in life. I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned that your family was very reserved. So you started making small changes. You said, I didn't want to sell myself short anymore.
Right.
You mentioned that this obviously benefited you. And did you make any other movement financially that were new to you, where you saw better return than a traditional one? And my other question is, how did people around you react to the changes you were making?
Yeah. So on the entrepreneurial side, I was probably in a lot of scarcity when I was building that. And then when I got solid in like what I was making and I could start doing different things with my money, um, I did. That's when I started studying the wealthy. And I'm like, they handle this all completely different. And I had bought a house. So that was like the one dream I had for my kids. And I was that we would get to stay somewhere and like stay, like have a permanency, right? Because we were always renting before that, when I was a single parent. And so it was so important to me to buy a house because that's what we're sold as the American dream. And you've made it if you have a house.
Yes.
I have a lot of thoughts and feelings about that. That's a whole nother podcast about that American dream and what it all means and the noose you put around your neck if it's not at the right time of your life. But um, I got a house, and that was the first asset I ever owned. Because of my investment accounts had gone up and down, and then I've had to drain them because I was a single mom and left kind of with nothing. So that was my backup plan and escape plan, which is always important. I just want to say,
Yeah.
no matter happy and wonderful life is, you should always have access to some sort of money. You should always have something that's your very own that you don't have to talk about to anybody else, that you have access to. I think that is really important because access is also freedom. Hopefully, you never need it, but don't put yourself in a position that you don't have access to something. I did not have access to like checking accounts and stuff before I left. But what I did have was my investment account that I had since I was 18, because that was mine, because I started before we were married. And so that became my only piece of access. And I was so grateful that I had that because that was my only access. So always have your own personal plan B, no matter how amazing life is. And that plan B might help you if something else in life that you're in together happens, but just always make sure you have access to something.
Oh my goodness. I want you to repeat this. So have a plan B no matter how amazing life is.
Yes.
So rather than going in with having maybe a mindset where you're just assessing failure, you're telling people, although you're happy, it might not last forever. So make sure, regardless of the situation, have a plan B. That's a powerful advice.
And access to money, so important. Have access to something.
And when you started buying your house and you started saving and you started accumulating your well, you were starting your journey to wealth, really.
Right. Without realizing it by buying my first asset. Yes.
And I remember you mentioning that your family was kind of skeptical about certain of the steps you were taking, not even believing in them. Do you want to tell us more about that?
Yes. So that's been an interesting journey. Something I would have never guessed ever. Like our family are big cheerleaders for each other. But when I started doing things outside of the normal system, it was, I'm very much the black sheep. I still am to this day. It's really very interesting. I'm quite successful with what I've created in my own life and what I've helped others do. And we know for most people, money is on their mind. They want to do better. They want to create something more affluent for themselves and abundant. And not one person in my family ever talks to me about money. They don't ask me how my business is. They don't ask me like what I've been learning. They don't ask me how did we buy $1 million house when we weren't working? Like, when we were financially free, like we upgraded our whole life, but not until we were free, not until we could make sure our financial system could pay for the $1 million house.
Yes.
So when you're talking about what things did we do, my husband and I, so then I remarried and I had a little more breathing space because now there was two incomes, but there was also more children. So that, evened out a little bit of still some extra costs, but definitely more breathing room. And we started taking it really seriously. That's when I kind of just hit an age or a stage and I was about to turn 40. And I was like, okay, I have been on this financial thing and I should be free by now. Like that's what they tell me if I just put all my money in these places. And so we did some crazy things. We definitely had times that we lived very frugally. And I was used to that being a single mom. So when you talk about, things you did like to help give yourself some money to start making money or investing, I didn't have a lot and I knew I had to keep saving and I needed to start investing again because I had stopped that for a while. And so like my kids wanted to do soccer, but it was $300. It's like, okay, I don't really have $300 for soccer, but how many candy bars do I have to sell? Okay, I need to sell 200 candy bars. I will sell 200 candy bars if my kids can do soccer. So I got really creative. Like there was nothing my kids didn't have. I probably just had to get more creative to do it. And
Yeah.
we would go places like the library and we'd go to every free event. So if there was a used car lot that was having a hot dog stand and a jumping house, for free, it's like, oh, on the weekend, we're going to go there. It would be really easy to go somewhere else that costs us $50. But hey, they would love to go in a jumpy house. Or if there was a petting zoo somewhere, like I look at free events. And those were in the more like building phase when I really didn't have a lot. But those are the things like you're going to have to get serious. I don't care if you make 100 grand or you make 500,000. I work with broke millionaires. You're going to have to really assess where your money's going. And that doesn't always feel good. And it can feel really weird. I know there was times in my life where it was a priority for me to save money. And so I didn't get pedicures. I just got color changes because they were $6. They weren't $20. And like, these are simple things. So I always get what I want, but I may not get it in the same way, right? So I wanted nice nails. Like, be creative. I'm not saying don't have the things. I actually hate that. I hate the cut out all the joy, all the things that make you feel good and confident and like have that, but be very mindful about how you get it and be willing to look outside the box to get it.
This is a great advice for people. I know we had this conversation before and we were talking about, hey, how about you don't get a Land Rover right now, right? Was the $1,000 monthly payments and you go for, I don't know, the Toyota or Honda that just costs less per month. And then you'll treat yourself later on in life. I think there is a lot of impulsivity when it comes to purchase. Some sort of ways people use it as therapy, or they take pride and joy in liabilities just because it feels socially good
Right.
to have this, just this sense of owning more than you actually own, right? Because basically a car, you purchase it and out of the dealership, it's already worth 50% less than what you bought it for. So I know there are other options such as leasing, but it's still a liability, right? You really want to invest in things that is going to bring you money over time. And you are welcome to once again make your, be happy with your purchase and feel good about it, but it doesn't have to come at the price of you stagnating financially.
Right. Or for most people, the average American doesn't have $1,000 for an emergency. So we're not even talking about stagnation. We're talking about crisis. Like you're putting yourself in crisis mode financially to possibly lose your home, right? Having shelter and food. When we like to think it's no big deal. Well, YOLO.
Yeah.
Yeah, you live once, and I would like it to be sheltered and fed well and cost for medication and education and freedom for you, not being bogged down by all the liabilities that you needed internally to feel like you're valued. Because that's what it really comes down to, right? We feel like we need this not everyone. It depends on, I have some flashy stuff, but it's not because so and so says it should be flashy because you won't actually see it on my social media. It's because I love it. I love it because it's a piece of art. I love it because it's, whatever it is, how I feel, not based on anybody else, but how it makes me feel when I am getting something or have something. And that's the difference. And just having some contemplation about, why am I buying this? Am I buying it to, you hear this often. We buy stuff to impress people that don't give a crap about us or that we don't even know. Like, so we can put it on social media to show the world. And when I see some of these things, and I just think, do you have any assets? Like, it's great if you have a BMW or you have your Land Rover, but at what cost did you just give your future self?
Yep.
Like, are you failing your future self right now for some payoff that isn't even measurable to anybody else? Because nobody actually cares what car you drive. They are not impressed. We like to think that they are, or that it's a symbol that we have risen to some level, but there is no outside thing that rises us to a level. We rise the internal self.
As you shouldn't leave about your means, especially when you spoke about broke millionaires. I know a lot of the listeners will relate to this financial podcast being maybe for people who earn, a minimal wage or an average one. And we're talking about people who earn a very fair amount of money yearly and still are broke or still not understanding how building financial freedom works. So this is a topic that really touches everybody.
Everybody is affected by this. Yeah, there's a lot of people that are financially unstable who make a lot of money and they look super flashy and fabulous on social media and they're broke. I just put out something, Mr. Beast. He is a billionaire, right? Billionaire. He's having to borrow money from his mom to pay for his wedding because he has no cash.
Yep.
So if a billionaire can do that to themselves, the everyday person sure can too.
That's absolutely true. And Heather, you have a remarkable gift, right, for making money that we understood. But you're also helping people with your program, I Am Generation One. And you help them strategize smartly with their hard earned money so they don't have to work as hard anymore. I would like to ask you, what are some of the most common financial beliefs or mindset that keep people from growing their wealth?
The fallacy that it's being safe is what's ultimately going to keep them freedom. You cannot save to financial freedom.
Yes.
It's impossible. Why is it impossible? Because of inflation, because of taxes, and because of most people putting their money into liabilities. So we're trained that we get paid, we pay all our bills, and if there's anything left, I'll put that away to take care of my emergency, like anything that happens now and my future. So we have it all backwards. We're like, pay all the liabilities first and then use our financial freedom, safety, and security to the very last thing if there's anything left, which for most people, there is not.
Yeah.
And that also ties into our choices of where we're putting our money, right? Like how we're spending. Like you talk about the Land Rover. I drove a Subaru, a used Subaru while we were building our wealth. Now I have a luxury car. Like it's not that you can't have those things, but it's the sequence in which we do everything that creates the freedom. So I'm not the person who's like the FIRE movement or Dave Ramsey. You should never have anything nice and you should don't waste money on this and that. Have all the things, but have your money paying for all of those things and not have it riding with the pressure and stress of all of those payments and liabilities on your back.
So you're basically helping people get away from relying fully on their salary and building wealth was basically, like you mentioned and like I said before, making their money work for them. And then with that money, they can finally purchase the thing they really want. This is what you do with people, right?
It is. Yeah. Our flow of money is actually our way to wealth. We're taught it's a return on investment, but that is not the thing. And some of the things that keep people stuck is they don't understand real numbers by design. Again, we're not designed to really look at these things. We're not taught to. I'm going to give an instance, a mortgage. This one's very common that people can really get and relate
to. We talked about it. I love this example. Listen up, people. It's I love it.
It's important. Like if just this is one piece of your life. So imagine there's probably 42 other pieces in your life that you think your money is doing something and it's not for you. So really, that's like the first thing is open your mind and really understand what your money is doing. So typically I'll ask people when we're going through like their clarity plan, like we're really looking at all of the things and places their money is. And so, what is the interest on your mortgage payment? 3%. If you're lucky, and you got your mortgage a few years ago, it might be 3%. And I said, okay, well, let's test that theory. And so I have them get out their statement and we do the math. This is simple math, so we can all do it. And what percentage is going to interest and what percentage is going to principal. And if you've been in your home 13 years or less, it's almost 100% guaranteed that you're paying over 50% interest. And they freak out. They're like, wait, no, what? That's not the paper that I signed. I'm like, oh, but it is, because the paper you signed is that in 30 years, this will have equivalated to 3%. But in your financial system right now, you're paying over 50%. and the average person stays in their home 10 years or less. So pretty much most people are always paying 50% for a home that they are not even going to stay in. That's mind blowing. And they don't realize that there's other options. Like we're all just taught we get the standard amortized mortgage, which is fantastic for the banks because they're going to make 2.5 times. If you stayed the full years, they're going to make 2.5 times the amount of money that you paid for your house, like from you, when you could maybe structure it a little different and have simple interest. So now your mortgage that might have been $2,100 is $1,500, and now you've opened up $600 every single month that you could now put towards retirement and or financial freedom. Like it's just about how you flow your money, but understanding how your money's working. That 3% mortgage is charging you 50%.
I love this example because this is something that's touched, it really affects a lot of people. And everybody can say, oh, wait, I thought that purchasing a money was the way to just achieve financial freedom. I want to add to that yes, it's true. Now, banks are like a partner. We talked about that before. They would not collaborate with you on the purchase of your home if they didn't get something in exchange, right? It's not predatory anymore because this is very controlled by many states. Yet it is still detrimental to whoever is now willing to understand how to play with the numbers and how to maybe apply for the right mortgage for themselves. Whenever you enter in a partnership with whoever, this is the first thing you're going to ask is, all right, so what makes you different from another lender? I'm in real estate. A lot of my clients come with only one application, and I tell them, did you compare mortgage lenders? Oh, I went to my bank. All right, that's great, right? But what do you get from them? They actually pre-qualified you. Why won't you pre-qualify them?
Right. Well, think about that. And with the largest purchase most of us will ever make in our whole life, and we just go in it blind. We're like, okay.
This explains really how much people need to just have a better understanding and surround themselves with professional that can explain to them what exactly encompasses any type of expenses and budgeting, their lives in general. You deal with money every single day.
Yes.
This is important. This is essential to your lifestyle. It should not be something that comes as a second choice. So yes, I love your approach for that. And I wanted to ask you, why do you think that these beliefs still persist? Is it because people fail to project on the long term? Is it just because they're afraid of numbers and they're not familiar with the way of doing it? Or do you think that they assess the risk as something that they just don't want to be part of?
I think part of the one major is we don't assess anything. We are an autopilot. We're like, oh, we need a new car. This is the car that I like. Instead of going, what's the car that's going to fit in my lifestyle for the future I'm trying to create?
Oh yeah.
We don't, right? We look at the wrong direction. We measure by the wrong measuring stick. And so I feel like there's not a lot of assessing going on at all. There's not a lot of reflection, introspection, and it's heavily marketed, right? Like it's heavily marketed. The only kind of mortgage you can get is an amortized mortgage, 30 years from the bank. And that's what's easier, they say, easier. And so, oh, well, I'll take care of it all for you. So easy. You just come in, you fill out this application. Again, easy is not usually in your best interest. And I don't mean it's going to be hard, but it takes some effort. If it's easy, it's probably not in your best interest. It's in the best interest of the other party.
Yes.
So that would be a key factor. I think we do want things to be easy. I think, unfortunately, you just hit the nail on the head. And of course, money is essential. It's in our life repeatedly. It's the lights that we turn on every single morning. It's the hot water we use. It is the food that we're going to eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It is the house that we live in, right? And we don't give it the importance that it deserves. And because unfortunately, the education system and beyond, even in adult life, the financial education and literacy that we're taught is not for our well-being or the culture of have all the things and don't wait. And so we follow that path instead of really taking charge and ownership and empower ourselves to be in a different situation.
There are on your website, there are there are powerful testimonies that I wanted to bring up here in this podcast because it's once again, everybody can relate to that. If you ever say that, well, listen, we have a solution here and we're talking about it. I make good money, but I feel stuck. What am I missing? I don't want to wait until I'm 65 to enjoy my life. There has to be a better way to build wealth faster. And the last one is I'm done trading time for money. I want to make money working for me. And with that in mind, I want to ask you, this really speaks to everybody. But what's an ideal, I would say, profile for you to work with?
So for me to work with, it is usually someone who is earning six figures or more, not because that's how much you need to start creating your financial well-being and wealth financial system, but because they usually have the persistence, they have courage, they have the hard work and the ethic to have gotten to that level, whether it's in their business or their job. And so they're willing to invest the time, effort, and energy. So I love to say that wealth is available for everybody because that is true, but you have to have certain embodied qualities. And so typically high earners or entrepreneurs have that. They've had to be creative. They understand that to run their business at a level, they need systems and structures, right? So they're accustomed to that. That is not going to be a foreign concept that they're going to be afraid of. They're not going to be afraid to have determination to get to their next goal. Because if you're a higher achiever, you have those innate abilities. I started my business being open to everybody and I want to serve everyone. And 95% don't want to do the work or the effort or the time. They're busy and they're exhausted. And I get that. I was meant to touch on that a little bit deeper. Our world is structured to keep you exhausted and overwhelmed. And so I get that. I get because of wherever you are in your world, no matter what you're making, we're tired, we're overwhelmed, we're scared. There's a lot of moving parts always going on in our world. And inflation is affecting, everything is affecting us, right? And so we're just tired and exhausted. So they don't have the bandwidth. And that's again where you have to have this just innate sense that no matter what, I'm going to create something different. I'm tired, but I'm going to get up and still study. I'm exhausted and I want to just go on a vacation. I want to escape the reality that has been created, that we've created. So number one, we need to own what we've decided. We're in the financial situation we are, yes, because some of the education and what is happening all the time in the world. I don't care who's in charge of the world. There's always things that are going on that are affecting us. And so we can only go so far with that blame because we've also chosen maybe to buy a house too early or a car that is a car payment that we honestly can't afford because now we can't save retirement. So you need to look yourself in the mirror and understand that you are where you are because you decided to be there.
Yes.
And you're going to continue to be there if you don't do something different. What is that? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. That is how most of us live.
Yes.
I'm just going to keep going to my job. I'm just going to keep doing this. And the result isn't different. I say this to people all the time. You're most likely earning way more than you were a decade ago. Yet your financial stress level and insolvency probably isn't much different than it was when you were making half of whatever you're making.
And the truth is, regardless of the amount of income you receive, if you don't have a good strategy, the likeliness of you spending more because you have more is very high.
Yes.
And you're back to the same level of finances because regardless of how much you get, it's how much you spend that really is going to affect how high you will climb in the social ladder or how you will be your just overall capacity of creating wealth, right?
Right.
And I want to say to anybody who doesn't make six figures, because this is not something, once again, I'm in real estate and many of my clients didn't start by making six figures. They saved. And what you can do is get started was savings.
Yeah, you gotta have something saved to go and put to work for you, 100%.
It's not for the people who make six figures only. It's really about discipline overall. And once again, if you're thinking, for example, of going out when you receive your paycheck, first thing you think about is, celebrating, going out at a restaurant, thing like that. Just hold this thought and maybe use the same amount of money you would have spent that night and put it in a piggy bank or somewhere aside. Same for nails. Same for any type of outings that are not crucial to your mental well-being. I want to stick with that. You still got to be happy in your life, back to what you said earlier.
Get creative. You can still have the things. You want to be with your friends? Have a potluck. Like celebrate every Friday night everybody got paid, but have a potluck at your house.
Do something smaller. Maybe instead of going out, why not going to your friend's place and do something a little more cozy, right? Just be resourceful when it comes to saving money and just keep track of how much money you're saving. It might not look like much right now, but it will at some point.
Right.
And you won't repent from forcing this sacrifice on yourself, because it will benefit you down the road if now you act in a way where struggle is your only route, right? Is your only, it's all you have. It's way harder on your soul and happiness than actually being frugal for a while and making things happen for yourself. I really want to say that it's accessible to everybody. Once again, I know people who earn $40,000 per year and still were able to make closer to $1 million aside. Now that's a lot. That's a lot of saving. We really don't want money to be sitting that much.
You don't want to save. You're not saving yourself to wealth. That's the long route. That's the 40 years. So yes, we want to get that money working.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. There has to be, I think your biggest thing you're trying to talk about is there has to be a margin. There has to be a margin left over, some cash flow that can go into investing and or saving. Like you have to have that margin in life. You can't spend it all and expect you're going to be free one day, like ever.
And you can play with 5 to 20% of your income, depending how frugal you want to be. But usually when you're young, this is the moment where you're very motivated. Why not put money aside?
Right.
Once again, go with a percentage of your income. And once you'll have a good amount to invest into something, then you realize this is creating passive income for you. This is freedom.
Right.
This is absolute freedom. And I want to ask you also something else. Talking about, we talked about maybe younger people, for people who have a lot of faith in their 401k, or it's like, or even their home equity. Is there a little tip you can give them that would allow them to just shift their practice and open up their horizon a little more?
Your 401k is not your financial plan. It is not a stable financial plan. I know that is all we're spoon fed all the time. And let me tell you, it is not, because you have no control over it. It's an old model of accumulation that is out of your control, which increases the risk. It's usually managed by computers or no one, like you just set it and forget it, which means through all of these crazy turbulent times, your money is going down, it's going up, it's going down, it's going up. It's not usually have inflation designed into it. No one's talking to you of what that will look like. They love to tell you you'll have $1 million at 70 years old. Okay, but that $1 million isn't worth $1 million in 30 years.
Yes.
That $1 million is worth 700,000. So really understanding, this is where I go back to like, the simplest things you can start doing is understanding all the pieces of your money and work with an expert who is not just like, financial planners and advisors. There's a space for them, but they are not your end all be all. Your 401k isn't, because the fees are astronomical. Over a 30-year span, on average, a third of what you put away, a third is going to be evaporated in fees. You haven't even talked about your taxes yet. So the average person is in a 30% tax rate. So take away another 30% and then take away what inflation is doing. And so you think you're going to have $1 million, and most likely you're going to have around 400,000.
Yes.
Nobody can retire on 400,000. So you're doing the right things, but the places that you have them and the systems that you're and the people that you're listening to don't aren't doesn't have the capability to produce what you need. You cannot fix a compounding problem. Inflation is compounding, taxes are compounding with a linear solution, which is generally the stock market. That's linear,
Yes.
right? So can you use it in a different way that's compounding? You can, but you still have that significant risk factor. If you need to retire, like when you need to retire is a time that the stock market is down 20%, and then you cash out and start taking that, you have locked in that loss. And now you have changed the trajectory of your financial future forever in retirement because it didn't have time to get itself back up and actually be at the place that you need to be able to pull that 4% rule. And so many people and advisors and planners aren't even giving you a plan B. Like, okay, if the market is pretty volatile at the time you need to take it, instead of locking in that loss, it's going to change the trajectory of your retirement. We have this bucket over here that's more stable that we can pull the income from that time period. That's never a conversation. How do we have no conversation on a plan B in a market that is very volatile?
Yes.
And not include inflation. So the market returns are what average is let's say 7%. But inflation over time, if you take in true inflation of gases and groceries and rent, not just what the government has whittled it down to these 5 things. It used to be 15 things that they measured a really long time ago. But if you measure the way of life that you have to live with food and gas and all the things, car insurance, and the inflationary rates, you actually have a negative return every single year. And I don't care if you made 20% in the market. And
Yes.
so that's the difference of really understanding that. Get honest and real and be willing to look at the reality of it and not just from people who earn their living off of you doing that.
It's very much an analogy that I like is really comparing prices. If you want to know how much you're going to get within 30, 40 years, just do it the other way around. What the prices were back in the 80s, 70s, 80s, and what it is now. Would 1 million get you as far as you would have back in the days?
Right.
The curve is in history. You can literally plan your future based on what happened in the past. You just have to be able to project yourself in a smart way, in understanding that the patterns are very similar, right, over time. And whatever you could buy for $1 20 years ago is not what you can buy for $1 right now. So your dollar is not going to go as far as you think it's going to go in 30 years.
We think, oh, I'm going to have $1 million. I'm going to be set because we think of what $1 million can buy right now without ever considering. And then our experts aren't reflecting that back.
Mm-hmm.
They're not reflecting back the fees will erode that. So you're actually not going to have $1 million.
Exactly.
And let's touch on the home, like you talked about, like having an asset, like you have a home and people believe that that's an asset. If it's the home you live in, it is not an asset. If you have to pay the repairs and you're paying the mortgage and you're updating it like people love to do, an asset pays you. A liability takes money out of your pocket. So as long as there's an expense tied to that, it's a liability. But a lot of people believe their house is their asset and I'm going to retire on that. Possibly, but you don't know what the housing market is going to be in 30 years, just like you're not going to know what your stock market account is. I tell my clients, like, there can be a place for stocks and bonds and any of those things in your whole financial portfolio. But if that is your only saving grace, you might as well go to Vegas and put 50% of your life money on red and 50% on black, because that's exactly what us making a plan for 30 years out and saying, oh, we're going to be fine without knowing what's going to happen in between. Like,
yeah.
Our house is similar. We look at it that way. Our projection, our perception, and the realities are very different. And we're trained to look at them differently because that's what keeps the big business of America and now the world, because we're a global economy, in business. Like, they need us to act these ways in order for their businesses to grow and all of the things. But getting real about what you have, what you don't have, how you can use it. Can you turn your own house into an asset versus liability? You can, but most people don't. And they think they have something that they really, truly don't, that's going to secure them when actuality it may not. And availability to it too. So this is what I say. Like, I love the concept that people love to tell me, like, well, I'm paying off all these extra payments to my house. I'm going to pay off my house. Okay. And then how do you get that money out if there's an emergency? Well, I'll cash out refi. I'll get a HELOC. Okay, so what if you get cancer and you haven't worked and now you're 4 months in, your emergency fund is depleted and you're like, I need to get this money out of my house because I have all this equity. It's debt equity. And you can't guarantee its use because what if you haven't worked for 3 months? You're not qualifying for a loan to cash out refi. You're not qualifying to get a HELOC. Like all of these things have to be qualified for. So if you're thinking this is your nest egg and it's your emergency fund and it's your end all be all, getting access to it is actually very difficult. It's something that somebody else has to qualify you for. So if you're in a car accident, they're not giving you a cash out refi because they know you possibly can't go back to work for the next 6 months, or you're dealing with cancer or any of these horrible things that happen, or you get a divorce. Like, and so you don't qualify based on your income now to even get into the equity. So then people often would have to sell their home. Well, they've probably had a pretty low rate of overhead for their living expense that was controlled. And now you have to go out into a market where maybe it's twice as much as what you were paying to just to go rent an apartment. Yeah. Right. So in order to get it, you actually have to put yourself in a more difficult financial situation. So, I mean, there's all these pieces and parts that nobody talks about. And there are pros and cons. So I'm not saying don't do it or do it, but I'm saying really understand those cause and effects. And most people don't. And so we make huge money moves without any real knowledge. And it's mind blowing to me.
Absolutely. It all comes down to saying diversification is key. Reason being, you start with what you have. So I would say that real estate is very safe, is not highly liquidable, but the thing is, it gives you can count on the fact that the demographic is just going to increase.
Oh, there's always a demand. Always a demand.
Yeah, don't count only on that. Like, once again, 100% diversification is key.
Just understand how it all works. Put these things in place when everything is great. Like that's a great, I love HELOCs as a plan B or C. Like just having access to it, right? Like you want to buy your house early, that's amazing. You want to do that? Do it in a way that you have access to the equity though. Don't put yourself in a financial strain where you have all this equity, but you have no access to it. And then an emergency happens and you can't qualify to get it out. Like that's the key.
Back to having an advisor like you who is able to tap into every single saved money you have in assets or in actual cash flow. And I was going to ask you something. You have in your approach to educating people, you talk about cash flow strategy. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah. So things like velocity assets, so things that are giving you regular cash flow, are a much faster way to building wealth than it does on the like old model of accumulation. Just buy stocks, wait for them to appreciate, because it reduces risk because we have money coming out all the time. So your principal is, your skin in the game is released every time you get a cash flow payment. Now we can compound. So some of the things I'm in cash flow compound every single day. Like I'm paid out maybe principal and interest on, let's say it's a mortgage note or something, right? And I have a bunch of little pieces of a bunch of them. And so every day I'm getting this money. So now I can take that money and compound it into earning again somewhere else, right? So it's compounding. It's allowing us to reduce our risk. So most of us have our money tied up in long-term things. We have a 401k and we have our own house.
Yes.
Those have appreciation value, but not necessarily access, and there's not compounding. We're not getting velocity. And our money working for us builds our wealth exponentially faster when we're able to compound it and multiply it out, So now I take whatever profit I earn from this one thing, and now I'm going to put it into another income stream. And then that's going to create profit. And now that profit goes somewhere else. And I'm talking about your building phase. And this is where we go back to where you talk. You just have to commit to a building phase. It's, sometimes I'll get clients and they're like, all right, I want some passive income, in the next 3 months so I can start doing blah, blah, blah. And it's like, oh yeah, no, we're in a building phase. You're not there yet. Like we're going to live off the passive income in the future when we've stabilized our financial system.
So you let people know in what phase they are?
Yeah, where they're at. Yes. Yeah. Well, and we have that conversation before I work with anybody because I want to make sure they're willing to be, and not everybody's in the building phase, but I would say 75%. And even my millionaires are in the building phase. because again, money comes in and it all goes out. And so they haven't built a financial system yet. And that's really the key that's missing in our education is you need a system. You don't need a bucket. You don't need a stream. You need a whole system. You need to get inflation working for you. You need taxes to be working for you. Our biggest money leak, inflation and taxes. And most people don't even think about those two things or understand that they can do something about it. They just go with the flow. And again, this is where is our personal responsibility. This is where you, listener, need to wake up, own your financial future, and not be a victim, because you're not a victim. None of us are. I don't care what's happening in the world. You're not a victim of it unless you choose. So there are things that you can do and empower yourself to grow and to be willing to sacrifice for a period of time. Honestly, I don't feel like my building time was much of a sacrifice. Because again, as long as you get creative, I saw my friends, we went on vacations. Sometimes it was a house sitting vacation, but I was still went on a vacation and I had to watch the dog every few hours. Then I could go to the beach, right? Like I didn't feel like I sacrificed my life, even though I was, in my building phase. I mean, my husband and I, some of the crazy things we did were we actually rented out our house. And this is when our last one graduated high school. And we rented a room in someone's house so we could rent our house and clear $2,500 a month in cash flow that then we could put into investing. Like that's how we were going to build up much faster. Like we had to get creative. And people thought we were insane because we were in our 40s. And that's the time when everybody's like, oh, this is when you have your biggest house and when you do your, the things. And it's like, nope, we're in a building phase. We're in a hardcore building phase. We have $217,000 in debt to pay off. And we want to start building our wealth instead of just, getting by and being financially stable. So you have to be willing to make sacrifices, but it doesn't have to feel like you're sacrificing. Does that make sense? Trade-offs, I guess. But I never felt like that. I mean, we got to see our friends. We just were more creative how we saw it. We met at a park and we'd go to like a free music festival instead. And we had a great time. We'd bring some drinks because you could, and there was free music and we danced and we had fun. Like, I don't feel like my life, and that's also perspective. I chose to not feel that way. I didn't choose to be a victim of deciding to build my wealth and like, I can't have this, boo-hoo for me. It's like, I can't have this because for the next 2 years, but I'll have something similar to it. And hey, in 5 years, the rest of my life, I can have it.
Yes.
Right? Like, that's an amazing trade-off. Like, what sacrifice? What? Like, when you're going to choose, and this is where the mindset is so important. Like, your journey, your mind is going to control how you view that journey. And if it feels heavy and lacking and sacrifice, you're not going to stick to it, first of all. Like, we don't with diet and exercise, right? If we hate it and it feels horrible, but it's all in our mind.
Heather, it's so fun having you here. It's so fun. You can't imagine how much of everything you say is so insightful and powerful. And just the fact that you mentioned once again that there is an unconventional way that can profit you in the future, and you don't have to feel bad if you decide to rent your house or rent a bedroom with your husband, and just all the things that people, there is a lot of, it's not ego, it's just disillusion altogether, saying, I don't want to do this at my age. I didn't think that, I'll have to do that still to make it happen. I think that we have to get over ourselves sometimes to make things happen financially. There is just no rule. Nobody promised us anything ever. And you have to pick your battles. Some battles are worth the fight because it means your own happiness. And once again, thank you for so much openness and so much. Once again, you're proud of what you did. You're not feeling ashamed. That's the thing. Society makes it sound like if it's, you have to hide this part of you, or it's only when you reach the rock bottom that you can start thinking about these things.
Right. That's harder to get out of the hole. Like, don't get in the hole, because it takes a lot more effort and energy to get out of the hole than it does to just pivot at a time when you kind of realize, oh yeah, I don't want to wait 40 years to be free. Like, who designed a system to wait 40 years? The best years of your life you're supposed to give away and be exhausted and overwhelmed and stressed out? Like, that doesn't sound like a life of joy, right? Because I do believe we all have the opportunity for a life of joy. But it starts in our mind and being willing to look at like society judging you. And I was actually the craziest thing. Like, yes, like when we rented our home and then we moved to one bedroom, people like freaked out. Like, I would never do that. But those are the same people who are never going to be able to retire. They're going to be the Walmart waivers, and they're going to be like, I don't understand how this happened. I did the right things. I had a good income. But they didn't necessarily do the right things. They did what we were told, but they didn't that system, and they didn't diversify, and they didn't really understand what their money was doing or not doing. And they didn't give themselves a plan B. And they think I'm crazy, but it's really I think everybody else is crazy for not taking money seriously, and not from a way of I need to be a millionaire. Because I work with some people, like their goal is to earn 40,000 a year and live off the grid. Like, you can have yachts and flights, and it's probably going to take you longer to get to that with your money doing it and not on the skin of your back.
Yes.
But it doesn't have to look like that vision either, and it can be so much faster. Like, one of the creative things that can happen is one of my clients, they wanted to buy a house in New York because they love the fall and they want to go to that house every year. So that was like a 10-year plan just to get the down payment. It's like, how about you just rented it for 3 months every single year, and you could do it this year because you, in your financial plan, you have enough money to do that. And they were like, I can do this now. You could do it now. They're like, oh, in our head, all we thought, like, we have to have this vacation home, which comes with a lot of CapEx, responsibility, repair money. Like, right, that's a much bigger thing. What if you can just rent it for the time you want to be there anyway, and have the time of your life and do it now and not in 10, 20 years? Because in 10 years, anything can happen. Then maybe they would never have gotten the money, and then they didn't have a dream come true.
Exactly. Convert your wishful thinking into an actual reality, right? And have a plan for it.
Right. We have a lot of good resources. We're just not using them the right way. And our money is not doing what we think it's doing. So there's a lot of fallacy, like the conflict of reality and perception. There's a great divide.
Reality and perception.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, where I was going with that was that when we moved in our house, but even as we were building our wealth, and later COVID hit, this is how I became a money coach, is COVID hit. And as I spoke to, I was an esthetician in my previous life. And in California, where I had practiced, they could not run their business for 19 months. So I saw so many friends that had careers gone, just gone. And then they started losing their houses. And I was like, oh, I know a lot about money. I could teach people. Like,
Yes.
I know how to crisis proof your money anyway. So I took my passion, I created a business. And of course, my immediate surrounding, the people I knew that I would reach out to, or I knew on social media, totally were like, what do you know about money? You're an esthetician and you drive a Subaru. Like, you don't know anything about money, because this was a passion of mine, right? It wasn't anything that I ever talked about. And my life didn't look like I had money. No, because I was taking all the excess and investing it. So I actually have $10 million in land and real estate, but you don't know that because you're judging me by my car. So now you think I have no knowledge to teach you. So, like, not only does my family would think I was crazy and I'm the black sheep, but my first year of business, I thought this is going to be so easy because everybody's always worried about money. Everybody wants to get to a more stability or get rich or whatever. I'm like, this is going to be so easy. I honestly had crickets for the first 6 months. Not one person would become my client when I decided to have my business. So it's so interesting how the people around you, like even people that I knew really well, were like, I don't think you know what you're talking about.
But the thing is, if it was that easy, or if people were willing to listen, well, there will be a lot more wealthy people out there. So one of the first obstacles, it's themselves altogether. But it was a very fun story. I love the story time you just shared right now. It's getting me very excited, because I remember, growing up lower middle class, how sometimes things, looked very inaccessible and just out of reach completely. And meeting people like you who changed their lives completely is I'm thrilled. I love it. I want to hear more of that. I want people to feel empowered every single day of their lives. I don't want them to make emotional decisions based on financial setbacks, or just financial decisions altogether. It is such a struggle for, I would say, 65% of the population altogether, right?
Yes.
It's a major issue in their lives. And why not just grab the bull by the horns and say, all right, let's get in this, you and I, and I'm going to start understanding my finances, and it'll get me where it'll get me. Maybe I won't get where I want to be, but at least I'll understand, right? This what it does in my life.
And you have a 90% chance of getting there if you understand what your money is doing or not doing and how to make it happen faster than you ever will on the trajectory that you're on. I guarantee you. So 65% yes, and the other 20% have no clue. They think they're financially sound and safe and wealthy, but they're actually not when you uncover everything. I'm just going to say.
And there is a portion that is safe where they are and don't want to move, which is also preventing them from really succeeding. I want to ask you also something. So I want to pinpoint the fact that you I was out of the frame. I want to pinpoint something, is that you say that you can, first of all, you have free consultations, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So I want to pinpoint the fact that you offer free consultation and you help people figure out in what stage of their life they're in financially. Why not seize the opportunity to just have this first introduction and first conversation? Where am I at financially? I would want to know that if now I was on a financial journey or if I was financially curious. Why not just have a conversation with Heather and just find out where you are at, really?
Yes.
Why not? It's just it will tell you how far you are in just life in general, and maybe will help you align with how far you want to go.
And we can uncover if you really are where you think you are.
Exactly. And I'm going to go back to obviously asking you a little more about your program and how it can benefit people. But I wanted to add to this podcast something that is new. And it was important in a sense where it really relates to, it talks about women in general and their finances, right? Because this affects us, and I want to have your opinion on certain things. So just give me your opinion on trendy and popular topics related to women and money.
Mm.
Okay, so I'm going to read an article. According to Oxfam, men hold 105 trillion more in wealth than women globally. However, as reported by Norris Lab, within the 5 to 10 next to 10 within the next to within the next 5 to 10 years, 34 trillion is expected to be transferred to women in the US alone, increasing their share of investable assets from 29% to 38%. This puts Western countries in a unique position to lead the way in closing the gender wealth gap. But in spite of this shift, women still retire with 33% less income than men, which reflects a deep and clear gender gap in financial literacy and with strategy consequences tailored to women's realities. If we fail to equip women with the tools and the knowledge to manage and grow their wealth, we risk letting this historic wealth transfer stall or worse, reinforce the existing imbalance. So I would like to know your thoughts on the subject and how to set women up for success.
Just hearing that, right? That is a mandate. That is our call, women, to rise up. This is the time. This is a time that we have more capabilities, more access than we ever have had, and we can't let it slip away. And not just for our lifetime. We're talking about for all the women who are going to come before us. We can create a new change. We can create a new money era where women not only build but retain that wealth, right? That's the thing. I feel like women in general still culturally look to men to lead us. Even look at the financial planning space.
Mm-hmm.
It's mostly men. We subconsciously still give away our power. And we also make a choice not to dive in and take more control and learn because we're scared and we think we're not going to be able to handle it because society is painted us that way, right? We're here to do other things. And that gap that you talk about, not only in retirement, is because women are normally the caregivers for children. So we miss more years of work. We miss more time off work. So maybe we don't get all the same promotions, right? So much falls on our plate. We often have to take care of our parents or an elderly person in our family, again, taking us either out of the workforce or working less. And we're not preparing ourselves for those gaps. We're also not generally making sure in marriage that even if we're not working as much, that we are putting away as much in retirement as our husband, not based on our income, right? But like what we would need to be able to be well. And women, 1 out of 3 of us before the age of retirement are going to have to make major financial decisions. So even if you may not be one of these people in the huge wealth transfer that's going to happen, you are going to be the center of major financial decisions for your family. And you need to be ready. Like you owe it to yourself and you owe it to your kids and generations you're never going to meet to know how to handle these situations. And not when you're in them, not when you're going through the divorce, when there's a cancer diagnosis or your significant other dies. Those are not the times to be like, I got to figure something out, because you're not in the bandwidth. You're going to trust people that may not have the best of intention for you because you're vulnerable. And so this is where that comes back to empowering and strengthening our future. We create it. Don't let the world tell you what it's going to be.
Exactly.
That's not, I am generation one. Doesn't, we create our future. We figure it out. We find out. We design it the way that's going to serve us best and that's going to serve our families past us. So this is such a bigger picture than ourselves when we really think about it, especially if we have families.
Yes, powerful. Once again, powerful message. And on a similar note, very little people know that, but let's talk about more numbers and women in general. There is, so women, and particularly in the baby boomer generation, are often the longer living spouses. And with the transfer of an estimated, this is a major number, 51 trillion in inherited wealth, many are now in charge of managing significant assets. What is the first step these women should take to ensure their legacy, not that their legacy not only lasts, but also continues to support their families for generations to come?
Get a second opinion, just like we would with our health, right? If we were given something we're not used to, right? Some experience. So whether it's money or a disease or something else, we're going to go and we want to get one more opinion, right? You talked about it like in real estate. Someone will come to you right by house and they went to one place. They're like, well, this is what's available. This is what's real. Get a second opinion. Get opinions based on people that will not earn from that outcome, right? So if you go to a financial planner or advisor, get a fee-based one, not one that's going to earn commissions, because they're going to be tied to you going into a space subconsciously. I don't even know that consciously people are doing that. Some of them are, and I think most of them are not. But if they are tied, they are subconsciously going to lead your portfolio in a certain direction. So get a second opinion and educate yourself. Don't be in a hurry to make decisions. Even if you win the lottery, don't be like, oh my gosh, now I got to figure out all the things I got to do with it. Take a breath. Okay, this is where I'm at. Who else do I know and trust and admire that is living in this reality as well? Like if you've inherited $5 million, is there someone that is in your circle or that you can get introduced to that you admire how they handle their life with their money or the life that they've created?
Mm-hmm.
Get mentorship, get support, get some understanding, get some facts, get some education before you make any big decisions. And the best thing we can do for ourselves is start that earlier. Don't wait until the big event, whether it's positive or negative, happens. Like take and empower yourself. Be ready for a longer life, a thriving life. Be ready to place yourself, your money, that you would know what would need to happen if something, happens positive or negatively in your life. You're prepared mentally, emotionally, and financially.
Once again, thank you for your insight on that. It's very important for women to realize who inherit from their husband, realize that they're now in charge of the future of their family. And it would be better to do it prior to the sad event, but don't throw yourself into things you don't know nothing about, right?
Yes, don't be in a hurry. Just be calculated, be strategic, be brave. I know it will take bravery. It takes bravery and it takes courage to take that on, right? You're going to need to embody a leadership. And sometimes that takes a minute to find in yourself, to grow in yourself, and just know generally no big decisions need to be made, right? Like take a breath, take a beat,
Especially for women who have relied on their husband their whole life, right? It's a bigger step to take, but you got this.
and get the support that feels good to you. Like if you start, going to any kind of financial expert and it doesn't feel good, like listen to our bodies, especially as women. We are so intuitive and our bodies are in tune. And just because someone can give a good spin on something, if in your heart that doesn't feel good or it doesn't feel safe, not in a way like you're not willing to have calculated risk, but I mean, like, I know they're saying I should do this, but every bone in my body feels like that's not a good idea. Just because you're not maybe well informed about finances, your body's well informed about what is going to feel good for you.
Yes.
Because there's also emotional feelings around money, right? Like we want financial peace. You don't want to go do something and be a wreck and stressed out. Now you have $5 million, but you went in a way or a direction with somebody that doesn't feel good to you. And so you're still losing sleep and you're still stressed out. And don't transfer on your empowerment and knowledge. Even if you do go with an advisor or planner, understand what your money's doing. Ask the questions, like get educated to ask the right questions. It's okay if you don't want to handle it on your own. I'm not saying you have to handle everything on your own, but you need to understand what's being done or not done. Like, does your person have stop losses on your investments to protect you if there's a major market downturn? Does it come with a plan B? Like, be informed enough to know to ask the right questions.
My following question is for the millennials. So the majority of affluent millennials don't feel confident when it comes to investing. Many perceive it as a risk and view it as something reserved to the truly wealthy rather than something accessible or relevant to their own financial lives. So in your opinion, what is the minimum amount someone needs to start investing, and how can they effectively reduce the risk?
You can reduce the risk by having volatility assets and that are cash flowing, right? So then you can choose to reinvest that cash flow into other diversified mechanisms. And honestly, there are some things that you can start for $100 a month.
Yes.
Some of it can be in the stock market, some of it cannot be in the stock market. I think it's really important to diversify. I think they are understanding the realities of the broken financial system that exists. And I think that's another reason that they feel so deflated about it, is that they're not necessarily seeing that work with their parents. They see their parents at 40, 50, or 60 still working, still struggling, still unsure about their finances, unable to take on major, emergencies. They are not educating to their millennial children, right? Necessarily. Most people in our families, we still don't talk about money. Like kids, they're raised in that the conversation of money isn't happening. So I think they realize the system is broken. I think they realize the effects of our financial system, meaning like how high inflation can go and the costs of life add up. And that can feel really overwhelming because they're not choosing to equip themselves with outside of the box thinking. So part of it is just their generation, I think, is they want everything easy. They were used to a kind of a cushiony life, and they think they just leave their parents' home, which took their parents their whole life to accumulate to, and leave and then have all of that. I mean, I see it in my own daughter. I think she was like 22 and she's like, we need to buy a house.
This is going to trigger some people.
It could. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay for you to question. And I'm not saying you have to agree with me. I'm just saying reflect on it. Like maybe I do expect as soon as I leave my house and I have, I'm at college or I'm somewhere else, I expect my Starbucks every single day and I should still be driving a BMW. Like some of it is like realistic as well. I think that the lifestyle that we've accustomed some generations to, they expect right out of the gate, and them providing it now, though, right, as adults. And so, because they're accustomed to that, they spend their money that way, and then they're broken, overwhelmed, and feel, like there's no hope. I mean, like my own daughter, I think she was 22, and she was like, "Well, we got to buy a house." Like she had just gotten married, and she's like, "We got to buy a house." And I'm thinking, my generation, we were not even thinking about a house at 22. We didn't have the expectation that we have to now have a house, right? Because they couldn't afford a house. They have no business thinking like right now I need to get a house. It's like get yourself financially sound and stable first. But often that's not what's happening with some generations. They come right out and they want all the nice things and the nice car and the happy hour and the brunch and all the things, which are great, but not necessarily relevant to you starting out in life. And that doesn't matter what generation you're in. And
Yes.
you don't necessarily have it harder than, like, I think there's also some victimhood that happens in some people that, well, it's so hard for all of us. Well, it's hard for everybody when your financial system isn't designed correctly for you. So just know that, like, you are not the first generation that feels hopeless. I mean, if you look back to the people, who are trying to come into adult life in the 70s when mortgage rates were 13% and inflation was, astronomical.
And one woman couldn't vote.
And yes, or, at some point not even having checking accounts or get a credit card. Like, let me just tell you, it doesn't matter when you were born. It matters who you are and what you're going to choose to do about it, because our environment doesn't have to dictate us. And a lot of people in every generation will choose to use that as a crutch. So it really comes down to, who are you and who is going to direct your life? Is it going to be society? Is it going to be victimhood? Is it going to be circumstances? And I'm not saying everything is easy, but we shouldn't expect it to be. And there's part of that too. The expectation that this should be easier, says who? And no generation will tell you generally that it was easy. That may look easy where they are at the time that you're viewing them. But if it's like your parents, they've had 20, 30 years of building to have the lifestyle that they have. So it's not hopeless. You just need better tools. I want to tell you that, no matter where you're at. And also just choosing your mindset.
That's true, by the way. Yes, again. On that note, Heather, I want to ask you, so we are closing the trending topics and we are going back to your mission and your vision. What it means for you on a human level. What does it mean, sorry, for you on a human level to help people break from financial fear and thrive into financial freedom?
For me, it means everything. And I'll go back to like why I'm here. What I'm not here because I need your money. I'm not here, right? Like, I've been financially free for 7 years. So I know the systems instructions work. I'm not an overnight success. I have held this success of my money making money. And I'm here creating a business so that I can help other people. I'm not doing it because I need to do it to survive myself. So I'm here from pure heart. And of course, other people have businesses. That's great. I'm just saying, my perspective, this is my mission. This is not a job for me. This is not a hobby. It is a mission. So I spend my lifetime, my free time that I've by design, to help other people because I'm so passionate about it. There is nobody on this planet who deserves to be unstable with food and shelter. There is no reason that families need to be destroyed because of paper money. It's just not on my watch.
Thank you so much, Heather, for being here with us today and sharing your knowledge and your wisdom and your story, because your story is very inspiring. Once again, this is what 60 Minutes with a Woman is all about. You get to meet the people behind the title, you get to hear their story, and you understand how far they came. They come and they want the same for you. It's really coming from a pure heart. This is how we wanted really here, having guests like you. Thank you so very much for taking the time to once again share so much. And I will add in the description down below all the information to connect with Heather. Take the free consultation, have a conversation with her. Financial freedom, once again, it's even one of my personal preferred topics. Because for the longest time, I really did not understand why me and my family were a victim of it. I wanted to understand about it. And this is what got me to learn and realize that it wasn't a fatality. It really wasn't. It's not easy, but as at least once again, get your feet wet. Especially for a woman, we need to do this now. What not when it's critical.
No, now. Yeah, it'll change everything, not just for you, but your family. And thank you so much, Sara, for having this podcast and being the place that women can be encouraged and know that they are capable of literally any kind of life that they want. We are so powerful. We're so, and we're more powerful in numbers. So find support, find those girlfriends that are talking about money, who are interested in learning more. Like, get your circle in the same goals as you are. Hey, ladies, I think we probably should start making sure we understand some of this money stuff because we're getting older and something could happen to our husbands at some point, or we're going to live longer, or anything can happen. Let's, start having monthly women groups where you start diving into a topic. Like, don't just save yourself, bring as many people as you can. That's my goal, is like, I want to, bring all the people with me to freedom that I possibly can. So make it social, make it fun. We're social beings. And so, I know some of my clients who've created like little women's circle, little women's money circles, and they try to get creative, like, how many ways can we get $1 doing multiple things based on like learning, systems and strategies from me? But they start challenging each other and they help each other out in between. Or like, hey, let's go on a vacation. How can we vacation hack? Let's do all the fun things, and how can we get it to, not affect our finances as much? And so there can be a lot of fun that comes with it. I don't want it to feel like it's all dreary and heavy and hard. Like, it gets to be whatever you want it to be.
And if you don't find one, create one.
Yes, yes, yes. And I 100% say take the free call with me, because you don't know what you don't know. And that's part of us hiding and living in doing the same thing over and over again and expecting something to change. So be willing and courageous to just come have a conversation.
Let's rise together. Thank you, Heather. Thank you so much again. And please make sure to connect with Heather. Thank you, Heather, for being here today.
Thank you, Sara. Thank you, everybody, for your time and listening. And I hope that you take even one morsel that we discussed today and act upon it, because it's the action that changes everything.
And that brings us to the end of today's episode. Until next time, stay bold, stay brilliant, and keep building your own success story. If you loved what you heard, be sure to subscribe, leave a comment, and share this episode with someone who needs to hear it.